Hey, we back. I'm here again with some more Discord bots. Today we're doing the difference between overbot and notbot. Continuing the theme from the last Discord video, and notbot and overbot are much closer together than karuta and mudae. They're very similar indeed. There are of course some differences, and that was what we will be going over today. But yeah, they are very similar bots. Now, the first thing to note probably is that Notbot does not have itself a Discord message content intent, so we're going to have to be using / commands to use the Notbot stuff, but other than that we've got pretty much similar deals. So with overbot we have commands like the owo command that will give you a couple of owo money, except it won't anymore. It does pretty much nothing other than count you up on a leaderboard, but the original concept of the owo command there, just owo by itself, was to give you a couple of money. And if we take the equivalent of the notbot command, we have the get command, which will give us a few knots. Admittedly, I got 10 there, so notbot has the slight difference of giving you a random amount of knots, whereas overbot always gives you 2, except it doesn't because they removed it. But we'll ignore that for now. So there's your 2 equivalent commands here. Then on overbot, we're hunting for animals. Basically, that is the aim of overbot. I mean, it depends what you're aiming for. Maybe you're going for money, maybe you're going for animals, maybe you're going for cookies or praise or whatever. But at the end of the day, you are going to be collecting a lot of animals, because that is useful for pretty much anything. Animals you need to get animals, to get a good team, to get good on battles. You need them to get money, and money is good for praise and cookies and stuff. So hunting is pretty much everything in overbot, and we have the owo hunt command. As you can see, I get quite a lot of animals for doing that in overbot because I have some gems which will boost my chances. Without the gems, you will only get 1 animal. So there's your first difference in overbot. It's much easier to get animals because the equivalent command in notbot, the find command, will give you 1 character. And that will be all you get from that. There's no gems or anything to add yourself on. You do have the little run again button underneath here, which is pretty nice. I do wish overbot had something like that. This was added reasonably recently with the switch over to / command, so you can press that run again button. As you see, you then get another find. It's not the same one. There's nothing guaranteed to be similar about those two at all. It's just another find command. So that's pretty nice. And of course this button is going to appear as soon as the cooldown is up, so you can just keep on pressing it, which is pretty cool. Whereas the hunt command, you're going to have to guess when it's ran out, unless you want to use an add-on bot like reaction bot here. Of course, since overbot is a more popular bot, it has a lot of add-on bots such as reaction bot to help you keep track of things. That's something that notbot doesn't have. So notbot here has to try and compete with not only overbot but overbot and its add-ons. But it's managing that pretty well. So there you go. You've got your 2 hunting commands and the difference between theirs. Then if we talk about the animals specifically, we have the overbot animals. As you can imagine, there's quite a lot of them. Overbot's been running a long time, so you've got things like the special animals and the Patreon ones. There's a lot of different rarities with a lot of different stats. In notbot, there are slightly less. I'm doing regular commands for getting it / but what is pretty cool about these is that the abilities of these pets, or what they're called in here, characters, are much more varied than overbot. So as you can see, there's however many overbot pets. There's a lot more than this that other people have gotten. I don't. Whereas with notbot, we just have this page, and then we've got over on the other page we have the shattered characters. But that's not a huge number. But the varied abilities of these is much different, because if we inspect the different pets on overbot, for example, we can have a look at the bee. All you get on these overbot pets is just 6 stats if it's going to load up potentially. There we go. So we've got health, we've got attack, we've got 2 resistances here, physical and magic. We have magic power and mana. And that's the 6 stats, and every single animal in overbot just has varying amounts of these 6 stats. The best animals are going to, in most cases, be the ones that have a lot of a particular stat. For example, a good attacker has a lot of attack, funnily enough. Whereas in notbot, each character has pretty varied abilities. So for example, we'll have a look at Ava here. We still have some base stats. We've got damage, we've got health, and we've got armor, but then we have the supers, and this is the big difference between Overbot and Notbot. The supers that you get in Notbot, which makes the battling system a fair bit more complicated. Now you could equate these to the weapons in Overbot. There are no weapons in Notbot, and of course the weapons in Overbot have various different uses. So in Overbot you're not just trying to make a combination of good pets, but you're trying to compare those good pets to good weapons as well. Whereas in Notbot, you just want to find a good combination of characters. So there is that as well. It makes each system more complicated in a different way. I would overall say that the Notbot system is a little more complicated because you have the supers, and these all do completely different things. You've got Tornado here, for example, paralyzes a character for the next turn so they can't attack. This one has no armor during paralysis. So that does exactly that, and there is no other super in the game that does exactly that. So if you want that power, you have to use Ava. Whereas with Overbot, what you basically just want to do is find a pair of some good stats with a good weapon, especially as most of the good weapons are fairly obvious and most of them are just going to require a lot of attack, for example. So there's a little less strategy involved, I think, in Overbot, but that's not to say that there isn't strategy involved. There's a lot of strategy involved. It's more like a rock, paper, scissors, I would say, in Overbot. One type of team counters another type of team, and yeah, sure, it depends on the animals that you use and the weapons that you use, the quality of the weapons that you use even, and so there is some reasonable strategy to that, but at the end of the day, I feel like the Overbot battling is basically a more complicated version of rock, paper, scissors. If you have the team that counters the other team, you win, and you can't counter every team in the game. You can do your best job of it, and of course the best teams in Overbots are the ones that counter the most teams, but yeah, you can't counter everything. So that's Overbot for you. Whereas in Notbot, you're trying to find synergies between three characters. It is three on both Overbot and Notbot. You're finding 3 pets on Overbot and 3 characters on Notbot. But you're trying to find the best synergies between the 3 characters that use the supers with the stats, of course, in the best way possible. So, for example, a lot of people will go for like a tank and 2 attackers, very common team. But even then, which tank do you use? Which 2 attackers do you use? And it doesn't just come down to which ones have the most stats. You want ones that work together nicely with good supers. So, for example, I use Burlian, and Burlian could work really well with Elron, the new Earth attacker, which admittedly I don't use, but because both of those do some nice splash damage that's going to ignore like armor and stuff, that's really nice. And then you can have a tank on the side of that as well, maybe an earth tank. Then you get the earth element bonus, which is also something that we don't have in Notbot. We have elements, so Ava here is an air element, whereas in Overbot you just have the rarities, which just affect how many stats each pet has. Speaking of pets, we also do have pets in Notbot, so I can have a look at my pets here. I guess here, pet. There you go. So yeah, we also have the pets now. To be fair, this isn't major because each pet just gives a nice buff. So I think in general, you're just going to pick the best pet that exists, which is probably going to be something like Mammoth or Griffin. To be fair, the new Legendary Panda pet is pretty good as well. But yeah, something that adds the most possible attack or the most possible defense. I think that's basically what you're choosing between. So the pets don't make a huge difference. But yeah, that is something that Notbot has and Overbot doesn't have. Some nice little buffs that you can pick from. And that will be a buff globally across all of your characters in the same way that the element buff goes globally across all of your characters. When I say globally, I mean the entire team, right? So in that sense, it's similar to on Overbot something like a banner, which affects your entire team, right? But instead of having to sacrifice a weapon slot, it's just extra. It's on the side, right? It's almost as if it's a 4th character, right? So yeah, there you go. Finally, I will briefly mention like leaderboards and stuff. Of course, both bots have some leaderboards. We can have, I guess I'm going to have to actually type it out. leaderboard. There we go. So we've got different leaderboards here. You can see all of the leaderboards for Notbot. So we've got something like daily. We've got ones for dojo, pets, because you get pet points. So these are like your zoo leaderboards. You've got your money leaderboard. There's ranked mode in Notbot, which is pretty cool, as opposed to just streak. They're pretty much equivalent. Of course, if you have a good team that can get a good streak, you're probably high up on the ranks as well. But yeah, ranked mode is also a thing, so we can look at that. And yeah, there we go. We've got all these leaderboards with Owobot. If I can spell, we also have loads of leaderboards that we can have a look at. That's not the right command. I'm just an idiot. There you go. We've got the list of leaderboards here that you can look at, and again, there's lots of them for different things. We've got ones for points, your zoo, your money, your pets, all things like that. The major difference with the leaderboards is that in Owobot there's a couple of extra random leaderboards, like we've got the cookie leaderboard and we have the luck leaderboards, which is just extra things because Owobot has been a bot around a lot longer than Notbot, has a lot of random side things like that, which Notbot doesn't have. Things like luck and cookies don't actually make any difference to anything at all in the bot. But they're just there because over the years Scoot has decided to add random things. Owobot has a lot of random things, especially when it comes to like the collectibles and stuff. None of that does anything. But it's just in the bot because Scoot added it. Notbot doesn't have a lot of random things yet because it's not as old a bot. It hasn't had the chances to develop things like that. So if you're looking for random things, Owobot is certainly the one to go for, but Notbot is a bit more concentrated in that manner. Other than that, yeah, pretty much just it's easier to get stuff on Owobot. I already mentioned the gems. You can see here we have Huntbot as well. There is no Huntbot equivalent in Notbot, so getting all of the characters, or pets rather, in Notbot is harder. In Owobot it's easier. But at the same time, the percentage chance of getting a certain character in Owobot is much lower. So if I scroll up to my zoo again, you can see the number of rarities is much higher, and when you're going for something like a hidden, the chances of getting one of them is so low that actually, despite the fact that it's perfectly reasonable to get, millions of animals, the chances that you get a hidden one, very low. Whereas in Notbot, the chances of getting the highest rarity here, which is, I believe, Mythic, is actually not too bad, especially because we have crates, which you can open to get you extra pets as well. Now, that's no substitute for gems or Huntbot, but they do have slightly higher chances to get the rarer animals. So all in all, I would actually say to get every character in the bot, it's easier on Notbot, but to get sheer quantity, it's easier with Owobot. I mean, you can already tell this just by looking at these numbers. Admittedly, it's a little biased because I've been playing Owobot a lot longer, obviously. But yeah, you can see I've got millions of these animals down here on Owobot, whereas I only got a few thousand of the lowest rarity on Notbot. But equally, I'm only missing 2 of the characters on Notbot in total, and I'm missing a lot more than 2 animals on Owobot. I mean, if you pay attention here, you'll notice that I haven't even got a single distorted animal yet. I'm missing all of the distorted animals just because they're so hard to get, whereas on Notbot I've got most of the stuff that's available. So yeah, in that sense, it depends on if you want to have a lot of characters or if you want to make the best possible team. Because if you're looking to make the best possible team, you only need 1 of each, obviously. And then it's much easier to do that on Notbot. But if you're looking for the sheer quantity, the big numbers, Owobot is certainly the one to go for. And that doesn't just apply to the characters either, money too. I mean, we can have a look at the leaderboard for money, for example. If I check the leaderboard for knots in Notbot, we can see that the highest person has 650,000, which is a pretty large amount. But if I look at the top money for, oh, that wasn't the global one, but I mean, you can already see, look, 100 million. The difference is huge, right? And that's down to, again, things like gems, things like Huntbot, that really help out on Owobot. Whereas on Notbot, they aren't a thing, they don't exist. Anyway, that's pretty much everything. I hope I have explained the differences there. There is a lot more, to be fair, of extra features. I mean, clans, for instance. I didn't mention clans on Notbot. Clans, you can do boss battles, things like that. There's a lot of just other things in Notbot that Overbot doesn't have, but I wanted to mostly just go over things that are different rather than things that are extra. So that's worth mentioning as well. Yeah, and I don't want this video to go on too long, so worth noting that there are other features. I think there's other features on Overbot that I haven't mentioned as well, like the actions that you can do and stuff like that. But that's just extra stuff as opposed to different stuff, so I'm not going to be going over those in that video. If you really are interested in either Overbot or Notbot, I would advise you to have a look at my other videos on both, because I have an entire series explaining both bots and all updates to them and all the rest of it. But for now, I will leave this video here. Bye!